Hello and welcome back to another episode of Little Girls Aren't Taught This. This week's episode is with a special guest, and I am loving these episodes, by the way, of bringing guests on. This week I am bringing you Kim Mellor, who is a manifestation coach. I first met Kim in Liverpool in a networking event, and now she is living in Bali. She has co-created her dream life. She's fully stepped into her power, and she now supports women in co-creating their dream life and manifesting the things that they desire and knowing that that is possible. So this is a really, really powerful episode around all of those gorgeous topics like manifestation, co-creating your life with the universe and what that means, and as always, the importance of self-love on this journey. So tune in. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the podcast, Kim. How are you doing?
Lydia, McCartney. I feel like my scoutness oozing out of every orifice every time I see you.
I know people always, I feel like I'm the only Scouser that people really know, like you and Gina. And well, what was funny is when she had the book launch, she was like, you were one of the first people that come to mind because of your little Scouse accent. And I was like, thank you. I think.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I lived in Liverpool for like 6 years and I loved it. So I do miss the accent.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me all the way from Bali to share your magic today.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks for having me. I feel so honoured to be on your podcast. I mean, honestly, every single time I see you pop up on Instagram, I'm like, boom, there she is, a woman in her power, inspiring millions of women to love themselves. And to see how far you've come and how much you've grown is like, I'm just so inspired by you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's crazy, isn't it? I remember when we went to the event, like around the first time I met you, and then obviously got introduced to Gina, and we were at the event around Christmas, and you both messaged me and you were like, you are so powerful if you just step into that power. And I feel like over the past few years, that's what it's been a process of. And that's something I want to talk about, stepping into your power, because I think, do women fully understand what that means? Like, so that's something I want to unpick with you in the podcast. But before I do, because I could go off on a tangent, please introduce yourself and let the listeners know who you are.
All right, my name's Kim. I'm boss, you know. So my name is Kim, and I am just an ordinary girl who decided to go for it. And honestly, this is my mission in life, is to empower women that if I can, they can. And I just want every woman to know that the woman you're becoming and the world you're creating is already within you. You just have to give yourself permission to go for it. And I've always known there was something that was a little bit different about me when I was growing up, because like I was at school and it just didn't click. And, you know, everyone would have these dreams of being a doctor and an astronaut. And I was like, I've got no idea. I just want to be free. I want to live in the sun and just like do whatever I want. And you can probably relate to this as well, and your listeners too. I just knew there was more. But because no one around me was living the life that I kind of knew was possible, I didn't believe it was possible. So, of course, I followed the traditional route of going to school and then going to college and then university. And my mum and dad worked really, really hard to make a living. And we had everything that we ever wanted, me and my brother. But what I saw was they worked really hard. They gave us everything. They gave themselves nothing. So my conditioning was, okay, I have to work really hard and actually give nothing to myself. I have to give it away to everyone else. And then also, okay, so I can enjoy my life when I'm 65. And so like, I was just like, that is not the life that I want to live. But I was subconsciously trying to please my parents by getting a degree. And so I did like sports science at university because I love sports. And I thought, well, you know, absolutely no sports involved in sports and exercise science, by the way. It's literally nothing to do with exercise. I was like, what am I doing? And then the options were to go and be a physio or a teacher. And I was like, oh my God, no. And then I did some work experience in a school for like 3 days. And I was like, this is not aligned whatsoever. And that was the first time, the moment in my life where I just thought, I'm going to go in a different direction. I don't care where it is. I've got no idea where it is, but I know it's not this. And I've been modeling since probably the age of 14, 15. So I had a snippet of what freedom could be like because I was kind of like working for myself. So I then just carried on modeling because that was fun. And it was like, oh, I could do what I wanted. And people gave me validation and said, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And oh my God, like you're so worthy. But sometimes they would be like, you're not good enough. You know, I could be at a casting with Gina, and that's how I met my bestie Gina. And they'd be like, no, you're too thin, you're too fat, you're not tall enough, you're too short. So my whole life was based on people's approval externally. And so my whole life was fueled by this desire to get this self-love from outside of myself. And, you know, whether it was competitive swimming, horse riding, dancing, modeling, like anything, I just strive to always be the best in the world because that's what I thought would bring me love, people's validation, people saying, oh my God, you're amazing, well done, well done, well done. And so self-love was not even on the radar back then. There was no one like you who was around saying, love yourself. You know, I was like, screw that. Like, I'm going to hustle until I'm burnt out. Like, I don't care how many hours sleep I have to lose. I am going to be successful. And then I was 28 years old. I had a penthouse apartment in the city centre of Leeds that I bought with my boyfriend. I had all the clothes in the wardrobe, a BMW in the garage. And I just felt so empty. Every weekend was the same thing. Going out, getting drunk, partying from Friday till Monday. And I just couldn't do it. I just remember thinking, this can't be it. There has to be more to life than this. And so one day I woke up and I just prayed the universe for a solution. And that's when my online business came into my life. And for the first time, I could actually see a way that I could create more time and money, because as a model, if you don't work, you don't get paid. So being self-employed was very feast and famine, but also the alternative was to get a 9-to-5 job. I was like, well, that's not any better because I'm trading time for money working for someone else. So my business allowed me to create time and leverage. And it's like someone handing me the key to this door that opened up to this world of limitless possibilities. And that's really where my transformation began, because I was finally surrounded by evidence of people who were doing things a different way.
Love that. It's the evidence that you need, isn't it? And when you were saying then about everything you were saying was just resonating in terms of wanting to do something different, knowing that it was possible. But I remember being in that situation. It was probably the beginning of my spiritual journey. I had a really comfortable relationship. This guy who was on paper was just perfect. And he had a house. He was talking about wanting kids. We go on nice holidays. And I was just like, I don't want any of this. Like, this is not what I want. And coming away from that was one of the hardest decisions. And I think it was hard as well because people didn't understand it. And I know for me, people have not understood a lot of my decisions. And I'm sure you've been in that situation where you feel like, I'm on my own with this, but I'm going to have to go all in because I just know there's something more.
Totally. And this is why your environment is so important. Like, you can be the strongest, powerful person in the world, but if you're not in a good environment, you won't flourish. Whereas I would classify myself as like just an ordinary girl. Like, I wasn't exceptionally clever. I wouldn't get A's in like science and maths and everything, but I was very emotionally intelligent. I could really feel people's energy, but no one told me that was actually intelligence. I just thought, oh, I'm just really nice and good with people. So when you take someone who's just like an ordinary person who's got the potential and you put them into a good environment, that's when they thrive. And that's what my business gave to me. It gave me the fertile soil to be able to grow and flourish. So I started my business like 9 years ago now, and it was just such an eye-opener in terms of this personal development world. So I started to read books by Jack Canfield and Grant Cardone and Robert Kiyosaki, very male, masculine. And it was 2012, so it was still the Piscean age, where it was still very masculine, very much patriarchy. So I applied the same kind of, you know, if it's meant to be, it's all up to me. Like, I am going to show people how successful I can be in this business. So that got me so far. You know, I used to like put on Facebook, oh my God, I've had 4 hours sleep last night. Oh my God, winning at life. Doing like the time hops pop up and you're like,
yeah,
mortified. And I was like, who wants to be a part of a business where you're doing that? But a part of me still wasn't ready to let go of this need to make it hard, because what was happening was I was working less but earning more money, and I thought I had to justify that with more effort. So again, this is where there was no self-love, because I didn't really understand, you know, the self-love and the vibration and abundance. And so I got to the point where, you know, I had this car that I earned, I had money, I had, you know, the status. Most people knew my name in the company. And then I was just a bit empty again. I was like, oh, I thought all of this would make me happy. And then that's where another moment in my life was a transformation, because within the space of 2 or 3 years, I suddenly lost my mum. She had a brain hemorrhage when I was away in Glasgow. That was like the most bonkers, world-altering, like something out of a movie. Like, imagine just getting a phone call saying your mum's been found on the bathroom floor, like, and you were speaking to her the day before. And then lost tens of thousands of my life savings in a fraudulent investment. Lost my driving license, the car that I earned that gave me so much validation, because my mum looked after my insurance and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. No responsibility. And I remember I was in Liverpool. I lived in North Sudley Road. I was walking to the bus with my coat on, because I had to get this big, thick, waterproof coat because it was like winter and I had no car. And I was walking to the bus in the rain, and I had the suitcase, and I was drenched and I was freezing, and the wheel came off my suitcase. And I just thought, for fuck's sake, why is this happening to me? And then I don't know what happened, but something made me go, this is happening for you. Wow. And I had this like spiritual awakening of, oh my God, actually, I know I'm going to talk about this day, and this is going to inspire people if I choose it to. And so that period in my life really was my awakening. And I know that my mum chose to pass away early so that she could help me to awaken and really dig deep into like, what is life all about? And so I put down the personal development books and I started to go inward. And I was listening to more like Gabrielle Bernstein. She was the first person that I could relate to who was spiritual, but also felt normal. Like the Buddha and, you know, everyone dressed in white was just a bit too far-fetched for a little girl from Stoke-on-Trent. So she was like a New York party girl that was talking about all this like manifesting and abundance. And I was like, wow, you mean there is another way? And that's when I understood that every paradigm is available. You can hustle and bring yourself out and be a millionaire, or you can create a new belief system where everything is easy, simple, and fun. And I was like, what do I want to choose?
I love that. And the choice is so, the choice is just the difference, isn't it? And I think as well, like tying that into the evidence of what you said before, I know if people are listening to this, there's a part of people that may be like, no, it's definitely still not possible for me. I feel like we can hear people tell these stories, like you, Jean, has been on. I've spoke about my story, and they can hear us say it, but is there a part of them that truly believes it? And it's knowing that there's always, like you've just said, there's always a choice of something else, and that's where the co-creation comes in. So you are a big manifester. You have manifested your dream life. What is manifestation to you?
Manifestation is the ability to attract the things that you want with ease, with grace, with flow, and with magic. Yeah, manifestation was not in my vocabulary a few years ago, but it absolutely is a part of everything that I do now. Yeah, manifestation is just knowing that you are the co-creator And so this is the piece that I really want everyone to get. You are all manifesting your life right now, whether you think you are or not. You might go, what do you mean? I'm manifesting having minus in my bank account. I'm manifesting arguing with my partner. What are you going on about? Life is just like giving me all of this crap. Like, why me? I'm telling you, on some level, having what you have is evidence that you want it. On some level. Now, you might not consciously understand this, but subconsciously, it's going on because 95% of our life is run by our subconscious. And so we think that we have control over our minds. It's this 5%. No, and I always use this analogy because I just think it's so fun. So if you imagine that our subconscious is this big elephant, okay, this big slow elephant with this big trunk, that's like 95% of our life. And then imagine we're on top and we're these little ants that are like trying to make the elephant move in the direction that we want. Like the ant cannot outrun the elephant. And so if the elephant is facing the things that you don't want and you're trying to run towards what you do want, who do you think's going to win? Mm-hmm. So the work is turning around the elephant so that you have more leverage. So when you do take action, it's all going in the right direction. And so how do you turn the elephant? You take control of your life and you take responsibility. You're mindful of your environment and what you're surrounded by. You are doing breath work or some kind of subconscious reprogramming to really shed the layers, because you might come into this life with stuff that isn't even yours. We bring 14 generations of trauma into this life. Wow. Like they've proven in, I can't remember which university it was, but they did this study where they got rats to smell these cherries, and they created some kind of trauma in their body when they smelt the cherry. And then 14 generations down, every time the rat smelt the cherry, it felt the trauma. So science has proved that we feel things that are like our ancestors' stuff. And if you think about it, like my mum and dad, they were a part of the war. They were the children of the war, and their parents, my granddad and grandma, were in the war fighting for survival. Oh my God, no wonder we've got all this stuff we need to heal.
Of course,
Yeah. So like the really big piece I want everyone to know is that you are manifesting every single moment of your life right now, whether you think you do or not. So when you take control of that by being responsible, taking full responsibility, like not being a victim, not blaming, not justifying, not over people pleasing and then being a martyr, that is the difference. And I'll tell you right now, I blamed someone else for me losing the money for so long. It probably took me 3 or 4 years to really forgive. I was like, this is not my fault. Why has this happened to? It was consuming me. And I was like, why has this person done this to me? And then I'd also blame myself. How could I be so stupid? And so the moment I chose to forgive them, forgive myself, see it as a lesson, because I know I had to learn that lesson. Otherwise, it would have happened when I was a multimillionaire. So I'm so grateful for that. And the moment I let it go was the moment my whole life shifted.
Wow, that's crazy. I think as well, I've had an experience recently where, there's been loss of money, and I get what you're saying in terms of it just eating you alive. And it's like, it shows up in so many ways. And it made me realize when I was reflecting on it, no wonder people find comfort in that scarcity mindset. No wonder people find a comfort in clinging on to things. But actually, you can't open yourself up and your world up if you stay so like rigid and stuck and you're trying to micromanage everything. If things go wrong, you just learn from them. Like even, you've just said you lost hundreds of thousands of pounds. I've lost money as well.
Not hundreds of thousands, just tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands, okay. Still.
Yeah, if it's 100,000, I probably would have killed myself.
Well, tens of thousands. Even if you lose any money, though, I think people's money mindset, even if people are so afraid of losing any money, this is why I think they limit themselves in terms of like investment, in terms of taking risks with money,
in terms of that expansion and that abundance, because they're just so fearful of it not working out. But I think that's where you see, if it doesn't work out, it's not a reflection of you. It's just that it didn't work out, and not everything in life is going to work out, and that's okay.
Exactly. And it's like, what's the lesson I can learn from this?
Yeah.
How can I grow from it, and how can I forgive? Because abundance is trusting that come back to you. And so I've definitely been on this journey of like, okay, I went from like being so people pleasing with money. Like I had this girl that called me up one time, and I didn't know her that well, but you know, I knew her, and she's like, oh my God, I've just had this accident and this guy's asking for £1,500. Like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. He's like, he's going to kick my head in. And I was like, oh my God, let me send it to you now. Sent her the money and then disappeared, didn't hear of her again. And then I've just had all these lessons where I've just been so flippant with money because I had no underpinning of my blueprint. I didn't build this foundation. And so, like, you know, I do modeling jobs, and sometimes I'd have like thousands from a modeling job and be like, oh, this is all my money, I'm just going to spend it. And then I've definitely been in relationships where I have lent a lot of money, and that has been a big lesson because I just didn't have any boundaries around what feels good to me. And so I know that has been the biggest lesson. That's the amount of money I had to pay to really learn that lesson. And so you just have to learn, and you have to forgive, and you have to trust, and you grow. And money is just energy at the end of the day. It's just numbers that you transfer to someone else, and they transfer you numbers. It's the most bizarre thing.
It is. What was coming up for me before is this notion of like radical responsibility when it comes to changing your life. And it's interesting because I sent an email on this yesterday. So I failed my first year at university. I had a lot of stuff going on and I failed. And what I noticed is automatically in my mind, the ego was pulling me to, well, I've had this going on and this going on, you know, like blaming and deflecting the blame. And I've had to resubmit this week. And what I've realized is because I've shown up and I've took responsibility and I've actually sat with myself and was like, you didn't fail because of this. Like they might have been small pieces of it, but you failed because you didn't show up to what you were going into. So this week I've shown up and I feel so much more confident. And in the email I was saying, we need to take radical responsibility for ourselves, but doing it in a way where we're not casting judgments, because I think the moment we do that is when we block that abundance and we block like any higher frequency coming in if we're just judging ourselves, and that's not coming from the vibration of self-love. So how would you, like, have you got any tips for people beginning to take responsibility? Because it's uncomfortable, because the ego will not want you to do that.
I think it's just really understanding what's on the other side. What's on the other side of responsibility is the life of your dreams. Because when you realize that you are responsible, whether it's good or bad, that's what gives you the confidence that you can create the things that you do want. So when you know on some level, I have created this, how can I be responsible? You can then shift it to, well, what do I want? So people aren't manifesting their dream life because they're not taking this radical responsibility. And so people say to me all the time, you know, you're so good at just taking the leap and trusting the unknown. Like I buzz off, I don't know where I'm going to be next week. I just do something and go for it. And I know it's going to work out. Whether it works out or not, it always works out because I always learn from it. And it's purely because I know that I am the co-creator and I can choose to perceive things however I choose to perceive them. And so I just trust that whatever happens is unfolding for my greater good. Am I in control of what happens? No, but I'm in control of how I respond to what happens. And that gives you this confidence of I can handle anything that comes my way because I know that I have the tools and the willingness to learn, to love, to see my responsibility and to let go of anything that doesn't serve me.
Yeah, perception is like a game changer when it comes to changing. Oh my God. There's been like, when I got that infection in the summer, I realised like the outcome was still going to be the same regardless. When I was told, you know, you have to go back in for emergency surgery, I was like, the outcome is going to be the same. And me and Gina spoke about this actually on the episode around surrendering, because sometimes you just have to let go and shift your perspective and actually ask yourself, what perception am I choosing? Like, what is my choice here? And how, like, what am I going to take from that choice that I'm making? It's powerful stuff, but I also appreciate for people, if they're listening to this, when you start your journey, or it depends on where you're up to, it's not easy to start this stuff, but it's like anything, you just have to practice. And the more that you trust yourself, the more this type of stuff will begin to unfold.
Yeah, so definitely. And I think, you have to trust yourself and also the universe. And what people don't do is they don't trust themselves and the intuition that is always with us. So, like, I'm sure your listeners have got this little voice in their head, the same as I did, that was like whispering to me. But I just thought I was a bit crazy and a bit of a rebel, just not wanting to follow the norms of society. And so that's when I was numbing myself with shopping and boys and partying and all of that, because I couldn't handle this next level version of myself that knew was inside of me. I was scared. And so trusting the impulses that come in, like if you get this, like, oh my God, this desire, follow it. Like I've always had this desire to go to Bali, but my circumstances was, I was in a relationship and he had kids and it just wasn't possible. And then, there's a series of events that happened and boundaries that I crossed and things that I had to learn, but essentially it just wasn't an aligned relationship. And my soul was calling me so much to step more into my power and live my life. My tolerance for anything that was not aligned with my soul was so low. Like the relationship had to end. It was the hardest thing I ever did. Like, when you've made like 5 years of memories with someone that you loved and you still love, and they have children and you have this future, that you have this vision and all of the things that come with relationships, it's the most hardest thing to say, I'm not okay with okay.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with okay. I want amazing. I want soul aligned connection, alignment. I want to have the most epic freaking partnership in life possible. And it took me until, what am I now, 37, it took me till I was like 35 to really have the self-worth to know that I deserve to live that life. And that is what gave me the confidence to let go of everything that wasn't serving me and it wasn't in alignment with that. And one of the biggest shifts I had was on Gina's retreat. I went on Gina's self-love retreat and I just had a week where I was in this environment of just like, this is just me and what I want. And that was the catalyst for me to go, do you know what? I just need to leave this relationship and follow my dream and go to Bali.
And now you are in Bali, and it's amazing. I do think, though, one of the things that this is why I always try and like talk quite openly about my journey, though, because I think people can often see like if you go on your Instagram, Gina's Instagram, maybe even my Instagram, and we're talking about self-love and manifesting, and people can think, oh, they've just got all the shit together. And it's like, no, actually, your life unravels and unfolds so much more when you're on this journey, and we don't have the luxury of ignoring that anymore. I know for me anyway, I can't ignore things. Like that was like for me, the moment I was unhappy in this relationship, I was like, I'm going to ignore, deflect, suppress. And I didn't want it, same as you. I didn't want safe, I didn't want nice. I wanted someone who was like fire, and I've got that in Luke. And then that transpires into everything in terms of the sex, everything. And it's about realizing that it's not easy, but you get the rewards. So I just think that's important for people to know as well. Shit goes down on the journey.
Oh, it's messy. This is the thing, like,
you can't get out.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. People might look at me and you and think, oh, I mean, they've got it all together. They don't see what goes on. It's like we are just so okay with the mess because we know what's on the other side. Yeah. And so, like, I'm always operating from, okay, well, what's the consequence if I stay in this situation, don't change anything? Can I feel into that? And then I think about my future self and how she would feel and how she would operate. And it's always living from that future self, because if we keep operating from the same version of us now, then we just keep getting the same thing. And it's really important to think, okay, this is what it could feel like, this is what it's going to be like, and just really embodying that a lot more. And that always gets you through.
I think as well that everything passes, and I think sometimes people don't I know for me, before I had my awakening, I didn't understand what that meant, but even if you're in the depths of heartbreak, it passes and you come out the other side of it, and at some point you will feel happy again, you will smile again, and you will be thankful for the lessons that you've had. Coming back to co-creation, I just want you to share any tips for people how they can begin to feel into this, because I think co-creation can happen at any point. What would your advice be, or your tips be?
Okay, definitely the first thing is to look at the responsibility piece. So like, take a pen and paper if you're listening to this right now, and just write down, is there anyone or anything that I need to forgive? Do I need to forgive myself, forgive someone else? And also, is there something in your life that is consuming you, like regret, or like, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? If you're feeling any thoughts around that, is that journal on what's the opportunity? What's the opportunity that you can find in this? And honestly, from this place of taking radical responsibility is when the steps literally get shown to you. Because then you go, oh my God, okay. So who would I be without these things? Is another great question. If I didn't have to know the how would I feel about my dream life? And just start really journaling about where you would be, what you'd be wearing, what it would feel like. And again, people get stuck in this, but how? Yeah. And I tell you what, like, the universe is freaking magical, but everyone is so focused on the crap. They're focused on the news or Netflix or the crap or the gossip, and you're missing every single miracle that's coming through your inbox. And I'll tell you something that literally has blown me away this last part of the year. I wrote in my journal, I think it was like the full moon, different ways to bring in revenue. And one of them was a book. I thought, yeah, that'd be pretty cool, write a book. And I thought that'd be like 4 or 5 years from now. You know, I've seen Gina write her book, and the past 4 years have been like really stressful. And I was like, this is definitely not a right now moment. So I just kind of let it go. And literally 2 or 3 weeks later, I got an inbox from a publishing company saying, we've been following your story. We think you're amazing, and we'd love you to be a co-author in this book. Now, because I was so stuck in, I'm not an author, imposter syndrome, who am I to share a story? Who's going to listen to me? I almost deleted the message and just thought, who is this crazy woman? And I was like, oh my God, no, I actually just manifested this. And so quite often we're having opportunities present themselves to us, but we're either not receiving them and letting them in, or we're just blocking them. And so literally on the 19th of November, I'm going to be a #1 best-selling author of this book. And I literally, I can't even explain like how bizarre that came into my life, but it could easily have not of. I could have deleted that and gone, oh, nothing ever happened. Nothing good ever happens for me. So receiving is a big part, because the universe is like, everything that you want is lined up for you. You just got to like let it in, let go of the how, and just be in your highest vibration and follow what lights you up. And the most magical things come into your world. It's bonkers. And I tell you what, crazy. Like my last manifestation is a very hot manifestation, well, a couple of hot manifestations, and they've all happened because I moved the photos of all of my girlfriends running on the beach. I have like 5 photos of like my sisterhood. And I did a podcast with a feng shui lady. And she said, your environment in your room, especially your bedroom, is manifesting the things that you want. It's like 50% of manifestation. I was like, wow. No wonder I'm not manifesting any hot men, because I've just got photos of my hot girls in my bedroom. So the day I moved the girls into the living room that night, I got a hot date with a hot guy, and now I've got 2 hot guys. Telling you.
And this is the juice there. Wow.
Obviously, I won't go into the details, but I'm a very happy woman.
Well, we can imagine hot men in Bali. You need to be saying it more.
I've actually got a 3rd date with someone else after this podcast. So
yeah. Oh, look at you getting all the things, you lucky cow.
Well, this is the thing. Am I lucky, or am I just letting it in?
No, you're letting it in. And also you're playing with it though. Like, you're not bound to these. I think as women, we're so bound to these rules and expectations. And it's just like, this is part of the journey as well. It's just like stripping all that back and being like, what do I want to do? Yeah, I want to go on 3 hot dates and enjoy the fuck out of it. And I think that's where we need to just like relax and let loose a little bit as women as well. Because sometimes we're so like uptight and bound into these things. But I guess when you have self-love, you can ease into this. And this is the juice of life. I always say that. Like, I seen you put a sunset up in Bali. I seen it on your story before. And I was like, moments like that, they always bring me back into myself and make me realize how magical life is. And for so many years, I wouldn't care about it. I wouldn't see a sunset. I wouldn't really care about the sunrise. And now that reminds me, shit, look how magical this world is. And it just makes me want to cry, like every time I see a sunset. And people go, it's a sunset. Do you think I'm crazy?
Yes, it's noticing the magic.
Noticing the magic.
And most people are just looking for these big things. And it's the microcosm of the small things that lead to the macrocosm. And it's just so like butterflies flying outside your room and your window, or birds like on the branch of a tree. Just start noticing little miracles and just how this universe is co-created, not by you, but for you. And so why do we think we have all the control over our life? Like, we are co-creators. And so the other part of co-creation is the universe. And like you say, noticing all the small things, really building this relationship. So I say to my clients all the time, what is your relationship with the higher power? Like, if it was one of your friends, like, what are the characteristics? Like, really building this relationship with it and having it as like your little secret ally, because it's always there for you.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like there's been so much wisdom in this podcast episode that actually is going to give people a lot to go away and think about. And I think one of the important things that I've got from this episode is just to have fun with life as well, because we're really not here for long. And like, I know when I say this to people, it sounds really deep, and sometimes it can be like, why is she talking about all this? But we are here for like a second, and we get so caught up in all of the things when really it's a journey. It's fun. It's like, just let loose and live your life and do what you want to do. And I remember, if you would have said that to me years ago, I would be like, well, it's easier said than done, isn't it? Because you're just saying that sitting there self-employed in your office. But actually the reality is, I've been on that journey, and so have you, and so has Gina. The women I've had on my podcast have all been in situations where they were very unhappy, and now they're just like living on the journey and loving it with self-love. And I just love it. I just love speaking to women like you, Kim.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, I just think it's all about permission. And I just want to give every single listener on this call the permission to go for it. Honestly, I'm just this girl from Stoke-on-Trent that lived in Sellerhead, 2 incredibly working hard parents who wanted the best for me. And I just knew there was more, and I just backed myself and I went for it. And like, having this power within you to go, do you know what? No matter what happens outside of me, I know that I love myself. I know that I can do this. And no matter what happens, like, I'm willing to fall and get back up again. Like, just, you don't want to have any regrets and look back on your life and say, I wish I would have done that. So just go full permission to go for it. Love yourself, and just watch the world unfold for you.
I love that. Also remember as well, everything you desire has already been done. You're not coming out even any crazy new ideas. And I remember when I started looking at my dreams like that, I was like, wow, yeah, That's so true. Like if I was listening to this now and wanted to move to Bali, you're my evidence that has happened. Gina, that has happened. There's so many women out there. So I always say to people as well, if you have a dream, start looking for people, start looking for the evidence. And it's exactly what you said, of women or people who have done what you desire, and know that it's already been done. You're not creating anything brand new that's never ever been done. It's being done, so it's possible for you to do it too. Last question I want to ask you, what is self-love to you?
Self-love to me is, it's just coming home to yourself. And it's knowing that if you place your self-worth on things, it can change. What happen when those things change? And so it's loving yourself from within, because that's the only thing that we really have in this world is ourselves. So I don't even know what answer that was, but I felt like this profound message that didn't quite come through. Okay, self-love is that. Self-love is actually not knowing what you're saying, or, messing things up, and loving yourself no matter what. There we go.
Thank you, Kim. Where can people find you, and how can they work with you?
You can find me in Bali.
Yeah. I really need to get over to Bali. I've been trying to get over for 2 years.
Oh my God, you can do it. Do it. So you can find me, kimmellor.com, on Instagram, Kim Mellor _. I have my Divine Union book coming out the 19th of November. I've also got a monthly membership coming out, which is like sisterhood and magic and connection. I'm so excited. And all the amazing things. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Okay, love it. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, babe.
And hopefully I'll speak to you soon, or see you soon on a beach in Bali somewhere.
Oh, boss, is it?
Your Scouse accent is not too bad, to be fair. A little bit more high pitched than mine.
I appreciate you, and just want to say, like, keep growing, keep shining. There's like millions of women that are waiting to be impacted by you, and yeah, I see you, I hear you, I'm inspired by you. Thank you, and it's a pleasure as always to catch up with you.
Oh, thank you, Kim.
So wasn't that just an amazing episode? Like, I loved that episode, and it really landed with me, because it made me realise, it just made me realise the power actually, and how amazing and joyful and sexy and playful life can be. And that's just that's life in its wholeness. And it just got me excited and made me see how far me and Kim have both come, and it's gorgeous to see. So if you did enjoy that episode, please leave me a review on Apple. That would be amazing. Just because the more reviews I have, the more women get to experience this podcast and the things that we talk about. And also, please screenshot this and tag me and tag Kim, and let us know that you're listening, and let us know what resonated. So I am so grateful for you, and I shall be back next week with a brand new episode.